Welcome to Thriller author A.D. Hayes' Behind the Scenes Diary, an exclusive look at the behind-the-scenes misadventures of a 30-something author. Discover how close she is to releasing her latest novel, hear exciting details about upcoming writing projects, and the tools she uses to self-publish her books. You can find the episode show notes and lots more information at authoradhay.com. Happy Monday, writers. I'm going to keep this episode short and sweet and just stick to all things writing and book related. I'm going to try and not bore you with the details. This is something that I tend to do. I tend to give too much detail and I really want to avoid this. I want this to be something that's short and really helpful for you because that's why I want to share how I write and what really goes on behind the scenes. I will point out that I'm super happy with my current productivity levels since I shared my October goals. Hopefully I'll be able to continue this new trend with my productivity for the rest of the month of October. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I'm doing so much better than the previous month. This week, I dived into immunity revisions and found myself really obsessing over the science of immunity. In the novel, a drug is created that supports the immune systems of cancer survivors. And as I ploughed through the revisions, I got to a scene that sort of takes place in a lab. Part of the problem I had with this is there is another scene that takes place in a very similar environment earlier on, and I have a funny feeling I've used the exact same room and level, and I've realised there's something to do with a few characters in there that I haven't quite worked out. So I need to get clear on where one of the characters works and where this other character works and if they actually work together, because in the first use of this lab in the story, the lab destroyed in some way. In this particular scene, everything's perfect and there's not actually too much time has passed between this scene and the next scene. It's not actually possible for it to be cleaned up so quickly. So that's obviously a plot hole that needs to be resolved, but it's not something that's sort of hinged on the entire story. But back to the science of immunity. So I found myself really obsessing over the path to creating pharmaceuticals and whether I'm actually getting this right in the story, and also where these particular scientists work in the lab. When you work in a lab, there is a directory that points you towards different sections. So for instance, in a pathology lab, you'll see, science for hematology, which relates to all things blood, immunology, and microbiology. I distinctly remember a tour of a pathology lab on my first day on a job. The smell has stayed with me ever since. It's just quite a unique smell. This super glamorous smell is the result of bacteria growing in petri dishes. This is sort of where your samples end up, just in case you're wondering, and they sort of grow things from here, or they see what grows, and this is an indication sometimes of what type, if you have like some type of bacterial infection, but I'm not even going to go there. So yes, I found myself obsessing over the labeling of the laboratory section, and in particular immunology. So there's various different types of immunology. You've got cancer immunotherapy now, you've got immunotherapy or immunology. What should I be labeling this? And I sort of found I was getting really stuck on this. So I ended up pacing around my apartment. I read lots of articles. I checked out LinkedIn profiles of scientists who work in the area. I watched videos about pharmaceuticals and how they sort of how particular companies create drugs and how they test them. I really just spent far too long obsessing over this. So I decided to move forward with the revision and come back to this section at a later stage. So at a later stage, I'll do more research and I'll make final decisions about these elements. It's more important for me to really move forward with revising immunity than obsessing over this particular detail in the story. And then there's the other thing. I want to meet my publication deadline. So if I spend too long obsessing over immunity and I'm stuck in this particular revision of immunity, I'm never going to get to a stage where I can show this to a professional editor and then eventually press publish, which is what I wanted to do with this book. I feel like I've spent far too long on this and I want to move forward and write other books in this series. So if you're like me, if you're in revision and you feel like you're spending way too long or you get stuck revising a scene, it's actually best for you to write a note. If you feel like you've reached a stage where you're like, I should have done more research on this, make a note to do more research and to come back and edit it and just go to the next scene. So act as if the scene that you've been struggling with has already been worked out, that everything's sweet. So just move forward from there and then go back at a later stage, do research, interview experts, and then go back and edit the scene. The other thing I've been doing this week that's sort of related to writing and all things books is I purchased the hardback edition of Dan Brown's latest release, Origin. And I purchased it for a measly £10, which is ridiculous. The cost of printing a hardback through something like Ingram Spark, it's really costly. For you to actually make any money on a hardback, I think you have to price it at £20 or £30. And that's just to make like a £1 or £2 profit or something like that. I sort of distinctly remember that's with a 40% discount for the retailers. It sort of makes me wonder if anyone's actually making any money from this book, or if the traditional publishing houses have found a way to print these books at a really cheaper price and not compromise on quality. On Saturday, it was bookshop day. Roland found this article on Time Out London through Facebook and was like, oh, it's, bookshop day. And I was like, yay. So we went down to a local Foyles, not our local Foyles. We went to the Foyles on Charing Cross Road in London, and we did some book buying, but I managed to vlog this particular trip, but it was quite an ordeal to get permission to vlog in the bookstore, because there was one guy where I asked him and he was like, he answered me really quietly and I couldn't figure out what he was saying, but it turned out he was saying no, and he couldn't, and then I realized he probably didn't know what vlogging was, so I ended up having to ask somebody else. And I got permission. Obviously, when you do vlog in public, you have to be mindful of who's around you, that you're not filming children and other people who may not want to be a part of your vlog. So you just got to be mindful about it. And obviously careful what you say about a company if you're in their bookstore. So it would be bad form of me to criticise Foyles if I was there. So you just got to be, I guess, really sensible about it. And to ask permission, well, maybe not permission, just to double check that it's okay, that they're okay. And you explain what you're going to do when you're there. But in the process of me asking to vlog, I did sort of start a fight with some guy and the bookseller, and it was weird. I ended up sort of walking away with permission to vlog. Maybe he was another person who does vlogging on YouTube and was like, oh, I think, vloggers should be able to vlog in places like this public area. And I was like, I don't particularly want to be involved in this, and ended up sort of backing off with my little monopod and my mirrorless DSLR and going, oh, this is scary. Yeah, so I spent the rest of our vlogging trip, our trip to Foyles, vlogging and avoiding that guy. So it was quite interesting. So we did buy a few books during this trip. Some were for family and friends, for, as gifts or Christmas. I will later on, sometime within the next 2 weeks, I will put together a book haul and I'll put it on my YouTube channel, Indie Authorpreneur. So I hope you have a great week and happy writing. Thank you for listening to the thriller author A.D. Hayes Behind the Scenes Diary. If you're new to this podcast or want to be notified about more episodes just like this, then click the subscribe button right now. I'm your host, Amelia Hay, and I'll see you next Monday for another diary episode.